Do not impose on others what you do not wish to impose on yourself. This golden rule, often heard nowadays, was one of Confucius's many quotes to live by during his time. He wisely created many other relevant quotes we still live by today. But who was he?
We believe Confucius lived between 551 and 479 BC. He was born in Lu, a province on the east coast of China. The area today is known as Shandong and was part of the German Empire between 1898 and 1914. In China, he is known as Kung Fu Tse, meaning Master Kong. While he was still a young whippersnapper, he turned his house into a school, not for money, but out of thirst for knowledge. In principle, anyone was welcome to learn history, poetry, etiquette, and ethics at Confucius's place. His fame grew as he moved his way through the government's offices, starting as buildings minister before moving on to justice minister, and then acting as chancellor of Lu.
Confucius was a humble and kind man. His social life was just as important as his life as a teacher.
Amid the chaos of 6th century BCE China, where warring states fought endlessly among themselves for supremacy, and rulers were frequently assassinated, sometimes by their own relatives, Confucius exemplified benevolence and integrity, and through his teaching became one of China's greatest philosophers. Born to a nobleman but raised in poverty from a very young age following the untimely death of his father, Confucius developed what would become a lifelong sympathy for the suffering of the common people. Barely supporting his mother and disabled brother as a herder, an account keeper at a granary, and with other odd jobs, it was only with the help of a wealthy friend that Confucius was able to study at the Royal Archives, where his worldview would be formed.
So why were Confucius's ideas so important? First, you need to know a little bit about what he taught.
The Analects, which is largely attributed to Confucius, were prescriptions for how a gentleman should behave. Central to Confucian thinking is the understanding that education is a key to refining oneself. The principle of ren, or benevolence, it's sometimes translated. Cultivating benevolence is a key to addressing societal unrest that characterized that time. So if a person educated themselves and cultivated their benevolence, that would be the starting point for bringing peace and harmony to society. Confucius is also credited with defining 5 relationships: father to son, elder brother to younger brother, husband to wife, ruler to subject, and friend to friend. Confucius called this zhengming, or the rectification of names, when a ruler acts as a ruler should, when a father behaves as a father should, and a son acts like a son should, then society would be at peace.
His teachings have had a strong economical impact in Chinese culture. Based on his teachings in analytics, he talks about emphasizing education by allocating a larger budget for his purpose, focusing on productivity that strongly emphasizes the efficient use of natural resources, and having productivity growth ahead of wage increment. His teachings also serve as a practical guide to regulate the conduct of behavior of the lives of millions of people in China, Japan, and newly industrialized countries of East Asia such as South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Some very prominent universities in the United States, like the University of Chicago and the University of Pennsylvania, have dropped their relationships with Confucius institutes due to the controversial relationships it has created regarding communism. His teachings have had a major impact socially as well. His school educated boys in calligraphy, and his teachings formed the basis of Chinese ideology, which made women subordinate throughout the region. Much of what Confucius taught influences different parts of the world politically. He dominated the development of Chinese civilization by changing the political and personal lives of Chinese people. For example, the qualities of truthfulness, generosity, respect, diligence, industriousness, and kindness were taught in Confucianism. These qualities are what the emperor wanted people of the government to have. Confucianism instructed that economic development and prosperity requires both a balance and blending of the right work culture within a politically and socially stable, harmonious society. Furthermore, a tentative Confucian economic development model impacted work ethics of people and shaped people to have diligence, the desire to work hard to support their families. Other qualities such as frugality in the use of resources, self-cultivation through continuous learning, and moral discipline brought out responsible, dedicated, and upright employees that respected authority and reduced the amount of conflicts. Nowadays, the Communist Party in other countries are attempting to revive Confucius's ideas by making the case that China has its own political culture based on its own philosophical history. China therefore does not have to head towards democracy in the way that Western advocates would like to see happen. It can have a political future based on what it sees as its philosophical past. After Confucianism gained the supreme position in the Han Dynasty more than 2,000 years ago, its influence penetrated all walks of life and all streams of thought in Chinese society for the generations to come. Seen on a map, people around the globe have access to Confucius's ideas and his institutes and Chinese culture centers abroad. The institutes and centers serve as non-profit public organizations to help foreigners better understand China through language, teachings, and culture introduction. As I researched, I was fascinated to find out some unique facts about Confucius. For example, he married when he was as young as 19 years old and worked as a stable manager and bookkeeper before he began to preach his ideas. His teachings still remain as an important part of Chinese culture today. Although he lived thousands of years ago, Confucius's teachings are still seen today throughout the world. He provided for valuable life lessons throughout generations and believed everyone had the ability to better his or herself every day. So challenge yourself every day because, like Confucius once said, if you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room.